Why 95% of people are mentally weak, the forbidden psychology trick elites use to control. Your biggest mistake, why you're a slave to your own mind, and how to break free. You think you know yourself? That your personality, values, and essence are your greatest strength? Congratulations, you've fallen for the biggest psychological trap in human history. While you desperately cling to your identity like a security blanket, the real power masters discovered the most disturbing secret of all. Your fixed identity is your social death sentence. Law of Power 48 is the most dangerous because it attacks the core of your existence, who you think you are. It reveals a brutal truth society hides from you. Have no fixed form. Sounds like New Age philosophy? It's pure behavioral neuroscience. Psychologists discovered that people with rigid identities have 73% less success in unpredictable situations. They become prisoners of themselves. Think about the last time you were surprised by a complex social situation. Your mind froze, didn't it? You thought, that's not who I am. I don't do that kind of thing. I'm not like that. That inner voice is the sound of your own psychological prison. Meanwhile, there exists a secret group of people, the chameleons, who operate on a completely different level of reality. The chameleon has no fixed identity because they discovered humanity's darkest secret. Identity is vulnerability. When you have a defined form, your enemies know exactly how to destroy you. They know your weak spots, your patterns, your predictable reactions. You become an open book in a world of social predators. But the chameleon is different. They're a social ghost. Today, they're the confident CEO in a business meeting. Tomorrow, they're the sensitive artist in a gallery. Next week, they're the charismatic rebel at a protest. They're not lying or being fake, they're accessing different facets of their total personality. While you limit yourself to 10% of who you can be, they use 100%. Neuroscience confirms something disturbing. Our brain is naturally chameleonic. We have different selves for different contexts: the professional self, the family self, the intimate self. People with rigid identity suppress this natural flexibility. They psychologically mutilate themselves in the name of authenticity. Here's the experiment that will change your life. For the next 3 days, you'll intentionally break your fixed identity. Day 1, in a conversation, express an opinion that isn't typically yours. Day 2, act completely opposite to what people expect from you in a social situation. Day 3, dress, speak, and behave like someone you would never be. What you will discover is terrifying. These aren't fake masks, they are real parts of you that were trapped. You're not pretending to be someone else. You're discovering who you can really be when you stop limiting yourself. The authenticity they defend so much is just disguised fear of growth. During this experiment, observe people's reactions. Notice how they become confused, intrigued, more interested in you. Your unpredictability becomes magnetic. They start wondering, who is this person really? And that unanswered question is the beginning of your absolute power over them. Society programs us to have fixed identities because predictable people are controllable. The system wants you to be a standardized product, not a force of nature. But when you embrace your chameleonic nature, you become uncontrollable, unpredictable, undefinable. You become dangerous to the established order. If you felt a chill of recognition, if something inside you whispered, "I always knew I was more than this," comment, form, and prepare for the next revelation. The Sociopath's Secret: How to Read and Control Anyone in Under 30 Seconds. Now that you understand your fixed identity is a prison, I'll teach you the most devastating weapon in social manipulation: strategic personality variation. This isn't a self-help technique. It is a psychological weapon developed by intelligence agents and used by high-functioning sociopaths. You're about to enter very dark territory. The human mind is a pattern recognition computer. It categorizes, labels, predicts behaviors. When you intentionally break these patterns, you cause a cognitive short circuit. The person becomes disoriented, confused, vulnerable. It's in that moment of confusion that you assume total control of the social dynamic. Let me tell you about Marcus, an executive who mastered this technique. In business meetings, he was the cold, calculating analyst. Rivals studied him, prepared strategies against the numbers guy, But when the crucial moment arrived, Marcus transformed. He became charismatic, emotional, persuasive. While opponents tried to process this change, he closed the deal. They were playing against a ghost. Marcus's secret was the Chameleon Protocol, a system of 5 distinct personalities he could activate instantly. The analyst logical, cold, the charismatic warm, persuasive, the rebel challenging, provocative, the counselor wise, paternal, and the vulnerable human, connective. Each personality had specific gestures, tone of voice, posture, and vocabulary. The psychology behind this is brutal. When you change personality, you force the other person's brain to completely recalibrate their perception of you. It's as if they're meeting a different person with each interaction. This creates an almost hypnotic sense of mystery and fascination. But be careful, there's a difference between strategic variation and mental instability. The chameleon consciously chooses which personality to activate based on the desired outcome. They're not lost, they're a maestro playing different instruments of their psyche's orchestra. Every change is intentional, calculated, lethal. Here's your first transformation protocol. Identify your 5 natural personality facets. Everyone has at least 5 different versions of themselves. The shy person has an inner rebel. The aggressive one has a hidden vulnerable side. The logical one has a suppressed artist. Your mission is to map these facets and learn to activate them consciously. Practical exercise. Over the next 7 days, you'll activate a different facet each day. Monday, be the analyst. Tuesday, be the charismatic. Wednesday, be the rebel. Continue until you master all 5. Observe how people react differently to each version of you. Notice how each facet attracts different types of people and opportunities. The most advanced technique is instant context switching. The middle of a conversation, you subtly change personality. Your voice deepens, your posture changes, your expressions transform. The person gets confused. Wait, who is he really? That confusion is your opening for total control. But here's the darkest secret. The more you practice, the more you discover you never had a true personality. You were just a set of habits and patterns. The chameleon doesn't lose their identity, they discover that identity is an illusion. They become fluid, adaptable, impossible to be trapped in categories. People will start talking about you. He's strange. I can't understand him. He confuses me. Perfect. Confusion is the first step to fascination. When someone can't categorize you, they become obsessed with deciphering you. You've become a living puzzle. If you're starting to understand the devastating power of personality variation, comment variation, and prepare for the most dangerous technique of all. The ghost power: how to be invisible and discover everyone's secrets. What's more dangerous? The predator that roars and shows its teeth, or the one that hunts silently in the shadows? The answer defines the difference between amateurs and power masters. While the weak try to stand out, call attention, make noise, true social predators discovered something much more sinister. Supreme power lies in strategic invisibility. Let me tell you about Sarah, one of the most powerful women in Silicon Valley. You've never heard of her, and that's exactly why she controls everything. While famous CEOs appear on magazine covers and give TED Talks, Sarah operates in the shadows. She's the silent advisor, the discreet investor, the mind behind decisions that move billions. Her invisibility is her superpower. The psychology of social camouflage works because it exploits a fundamental flaw in the human mind. We only pay attention to what stands out. What blends into the background becomes invisible, and the invisible has total access without being noticed. It's like having an invisibility cloak in a world where everyone's screaming to be seen. But the chameleon's invisibility isn't about being forgettable or without personality. It's about becoming part of the environment so naturally that people completely lower their guard. They speak secrets near you, reveal plans, show vulnerabilities. You become a sponge for privileged information. The most powerful technique is contextual camouflage. In each environment, you identify the standard type of person and mold yourself to be slightly more interesting than average, but not enough to stand out. In a corporate office, you're the competent but discreet executive. At a party, you're the sociable guest, but not the center of attention. You're always in the social perception sweet spot. Here's the most disturbing experiment for the next 5 days. Practice active invisibility. Day 1. In meetings, always sit in a position that gives you full view of the room, but where you're not the focus. Day 2. Group conversations. Be the attentive listener who asks the right questions. Day 3. At social events, circulate through groups without fixating on any collecting information. What you'll discover is shocking. When you stop trying to be the center of attention, you gain access to everything. People start seeing you as safe, someone they can trust. They don't realize you're cataloging every word, mapping every dynamic, identifying every weakness. The most advanced technique is subliminal mirroring. You subtly mirror body language, tone of voice, even breathing patterns of people around you. They feel inexplicably comfortable with you, without knowing why. It's as if you were a harmonic extension of themselves. You become part of the social furniture, and furniture sees everything. But there's an even deeper level, the ghost presence. You develop the ability to be present without being noticed, and absent without being missed. People remember important conversations with you, but can't remember exactly when or where they happened. You become a diffuse memory, a subliminal influencer. Real power comes when you combine invisibility with information. You know everyone's secrets, but nobody knows yours. You understand hidden motivations, secret fears, and spoken desires of every person in your social circle. You become the invisible puppet master, pulling strings nobody knows exist. The most sinister part. People start seeking your approval without knowing why. Your opinion becomes valuable precisely because it's rare. When the ghost finally speaks, everyone stops to listen. Your invisibility transformed your voice into social gold. If you felt a chill imagining this level of hidden power, comment, shadow, and prepare for the final synthesis. Total transformation in 30 days, the protocol that makes you the most dangerous type of person. If you've made it this far, your mind has been irreversibly altered. You've absorbed 3 of the most dangerous secrets of social manipulation: how to break the fixed identity prison, how to use personality variation as a psychological weapon, and how to operate in lethal invisibility. Now, I need you to combine these 3 forces into a protocol that will transform you into something beyond human, a social force of nature. But before revealing the supreme protocol, you need to understand something disturbing. Once you fully implement this, there's no going back. You'll become fundamentally different from 99.9% of the population. You'll see through all masks, understand all games, control all dynamics. It's a one-way transformation, like leaving the Matrix. You'll never be able to be unconscious again. The Supreme Chameleon Protocol operates in 3 simultaneous dimensions: identity dimension, total fluidity; behavioral dimension, strategic variation; and spatial dimension, controlled invisibility. When these 3 dimensions operate in perfect synchrony, you become what the ancients called a social demon, an entity that can assume any form necessary to achieve its objectives. Dimension 1, identity. You develop what military psychologists call fluid ego, the ability to change your core identity instantly. These are ent masks or characters. They are genuine versions of you that exist in simultaneous quantum states. You become like water. You assume the container's shape, but maintain your molecular essence. Impossible to trap, impossible to define, impossible to control. Dimension 2, behavioral. Your personality repertoire expands to at least 12 distinct archetypes: the analyst, the seducer, the mentor, the rebel, the protector, the visionary, the warrior, the diplomat, the artist, the scientist, the mystic, the fool. Each archetype has specific gestures, vocabulary, thought patterns, and energy. You become a method actor who never breaks character, because all characters are genuinely you. Dimension 3, spatial. You master what spies call total environmental control. You can be the magnetic center that attracts all attention, or the invisible ghost that observes everything unnoticed. You can occupy any position on the social spectrum instantly. You become the maestro of the social orchestra, controlling rhythm, intensity, and dynamic of any interaction. The daily protocol to implement this is the 3 Faces ritual. 5 minutes every morning preparing your mind to operate in 3 dimensions. Minutes 1-2. Fluid identity meditation. You remember you have no fixed form, that you're pure potentiality. Minutes 3-4. Dominant archetype selection. You consciously choose which personality will be your base for the day, depending on your objectives. Minute 5. Spatial calibration. You decide your desired visibility level and social impact. But here is the deepest secret. The Supreme Chameleon Protocol doesn't teach you to pretend to be different people, reveals that you always were all these people. The unique personality was always a social illusion. You were only using 5% of your total human potential. Now, you have access to the other 95%. People around you will start noticing impossible to ignore changes. They'll say, you're different, but won't be able to explain how. You'll become more interesting, more magnetic, more influential, but mysteriously, as if you developed social superpowers. The deepest transformation is internal. You stop identifying with any specific role. You become the conscious observer who can inhabit any necessary role. It is total psychological liberation. You will never again get stuck being someone you don't want to be in that moment. But there's a price. You'll become fundamentally lonely, not by choice, but by nature. When you can be anyone, you become nobody specific. People feel connected to your various faces, but nobody really knows you. You become a lonely god playing among mortals. Your final exercise is the total integration test. For the next 30 days, you'll fully implement the Supreme Chameleon Protocol. Monitor not just external result success, influence, control, but mainly internal ones who you become in the process. At the end of 30 days, you'll have become a fundamentally different person. The human game will never be the same for you. You've become a superior level player, operating with rules that 99.9% of people don't even know exist. Use this power to elevate humanity, not dominate it. Because in the end, the true test of the Supreme Chameleon isn't how much power you can accumulate, it is what you choose to do with it. If this journey transformed you irreversibly, comment Supreme and become part of the invisible elite that really controls this world.